I'm back. I don't know what happened. Actually, my computer died because I was away from it for more than 5 seconds. I was away from its umbilical cord for more than 5 seconds. It's probably time for a new battery, I'm thinking. Just waiting for everybody to show back up now. Come on, guys, where are you at? Yay, you're back. There they are. Yep, battery was dead. Okay, so now all my super chat guys, you guys all need to pitch in $1 so I can buy a new battery. I'm gonna have to order one. I'm gonna have to find out what part number it is and stuff. This thing is ridiculous. I mean, how long was I out walking around for? Like 2 or 3 minutes? That's ridiculous. It should have to be plugged in all the time. David wants to know what model my laptop is. It says Commodore 32 on it. Is that a good one? Yeah, now that you guys are all back on, everybody hit like. I don't know how much of it you heard because I don't know when it shut off. But the other heads that I have, we've got Brian Tooley dual springs for it. We have smaller chambers because they've been milled 30,000s. It has stock valve sizes. It flows comparable to what the TPIS heads flow, although not quite as much. That has a bigger valve, and it also has chamber work done to it, and these are just stock chambers, but they have been milled. So what I'm hoping is we have way more cylinder head than we need anyway to make the kind of power that we're at. So I'm hoping that with the RPM potential, with this bigger cam that we have in it, and with the valve springs all working and cooperating, and with enough piston to valve clearance, that we can now run this motor, make reasonable power. I'd really like a cam that's 107 or 8 LSA. It's going to limit piston to valve clearance if we do that, and I might have to go down in duration a little bit, but that's what I would like. But unfortunately, we didn't have one of those sitting around. The only cam that I've run in this L99 that had that really tight LSA was the very first one. And it was small, but it worked awesome, as we would have come to expect. No, it's not even a Commodore 64. It's pre-64. The laptop I have is a Panasonic CF52. It's a, I think it's like a mini tough book thing. Yeah, it's a tough book. Not the super tough book, the semi-tough book. Mark wants to know what's the bore and stroke on this 4.3. It is a 3736 bore and a 3-inch stroke. A Vortec 5.7 truck marine intake will not fit on the L99. The bolt pattern is different on a Vortec than it is on an LT1, and this is an LT1 based motor. Matt thinks I need to supercharge that carb intake. Yeah, that will just solve all the problems, right? Oh, I have to show you guys. Did you guys all see the Instagram that I posted today where I ran after running the carburetor on this, I ran it with a 4150 throttle body and just ran it fuel injected, but with a 4150 throttle body on top to get, all that big airflow. So we had like 1,000 CFM throttle body. So what do you guys think? Do you think it helped power at all on the tune port manifold? Yeah. What is that? Overbuilt? Yeah, it is kind of like a D-stroke 305. Larry says no. I know. And Jody, I was going to use duct tape. What I was going to do instead of the cardboard was I was going to reinforce the cardboard with Gorilla Tape, because then hopefully I could get Gorilla Tape as a channel sponsor, because we know that would work if the cardboard worked by itself. But as it turned out, and I'll show you, I'm going to grab that so you guys can watch that. Stay there and talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna show you guys a video that I did, and then I'm gonna show you some dyno results that I have up here on the dyno. See, this is the fancy 4150 throttle body. So I'll show you what we did. We put the 4150 throttle body on there, and we also opened up the front. But I did that while I was in the dyno. So watch. Eric went to wide open throttle, and then I pulled the carburetor plate off, and we made some dyno runs like that. So we ran it with just the we ran with the tune port with just the tune port throttle body. Then I ran it with the tune port throttle body blocked off, but with a 4150. Then we ran it with the 4150 and removed the cover plate off the throttle body, off the front throttle body. So what do you guys think? Do you think any of those things, any of those tests made any more power than the motor just working with the stock throttle body? No guesses? No one cares? No one's listening to me? You guys are all just talking amongst yourself? Well, let's take a look. And I'll show you whether or not it made power, because that's what we do here. We test. So I'm going to zoom you in. Wow, you're going with a bumpy ride. What's up? So look at that. That, my friends, is the dyno result between the tune port by itself. That's the lowest one in blue. Red, run with just the 4150. Then in black with the 4150 and opening the front throttle body opening by removing our piece of cardboard. So in each instance, it picked up power when we added more airflow. Now here's a question for you. Do you think it was actually airflow? And here's why I ask. Because at 250 horsepower, that stock throttle body, we've made way more power than that with a stock throttle body. So 250 horsepower is not anywhere near the flow limit of the stock throttle body. And certainly it's not anywhere near the flow limit of 1,000 CFM 4150 throttle body. So if it's not at the flow limit of either one of those, and when we went from one to the other, it made more power. And then when we opened the front to add even more airflow, it made more power. Is this not an airflow thing? That's my question. So you guys can figure that out amongst yourselves. And then later on, I'll tell you what the answer is. To say two different airflows allowing for better fuel distribution. Well, the fuel distribution is really, really good because it's port injected. So it has the same fuel distribution regardless of how the air is coming in. Yeah, it's only flowing air in the ports and not fuel. Yes, CA 434 has it. The one thing I can say, and somebody mentioned air temp here, the one thing I can say when we ran the carburetor on there, man, was that intake manifold cold when we were trying to run fuel through it. It was really, really cold. That's why carburetors always make more power than fuel injection. Now everybody can, get up in arms about that. You're supposed to take the pop quiz right now, Karen. Why did the power change? No, the question now is we're not running it with the carburetor anymore. We ran it with a 4-hole throttle body, and then we also ran it with the 4-hole throttle body and the front throttle body off of the motor. So we had like maximum airflow. Charge cooling. This is not charge cooling because we haven't changed the charge cooling. I was just talking about that before with the carburetor. We're not. The question, the stuff I just showed you up on the dyno was not with the carburetor. Yeah, Stang's got it. Does the shape of the intake, John, what's up? $5. Does the shape of the intake runners have an effect on the shape of the power curve? For example, curve runners versus straight runners. No, I actually haven't seen that. The length of the runner is critical. Whether the thing has a curve in it or not can change flow, but the length is still the same. The reflected wave still travels the same length, but it cannot flow as much. That can definitely hurt power too. Jason, there's no effective runner length change. All that has stayed the same. The only thing that's happened is we've basically allowed more air in. You know, I didn't look to see what the vacuum was when we were doing it. I should have logged it. I didn't log it on the Holly to find out if there was a change. So the answer to the question is, at least I think it is, when, and this is more so when we with the 4-hole throttle body, we could have changed flow. There could have been a change in flow. That definitely could have helped power. And it was centralized. So maybe we have an improvement in airflow going into the runners because it's not coming at an angle, it's coming down. There could be something there. When we opened the front of the plenum, though, with because the front throttle body was removed, I just had a piece of cardboard, and then we went to wide open throttle and then removed the piece of cardboard so it could breathe through the 4150 on the top and through the front. But what's happening is it's not breathing through the front. I mean, air is coming in there. But what we've done now is we've dramatically changed the plenum volume. So that's a Helmholtz resonance thing. And so that is the resonating volume of the plenum. So it goes wah, 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 and you can quote me on that. So it resonates, and then those pressure waves, if they arrive down at the cylinder at the right time, can improve cylinder filling. So by changing that, now we've introduced, because the Helmholtz resonance, the resonating volume of the plenum is not just the plenum. It's actually the plenum, the runner, half of the cylinder when the valve is open, and the air intake in front of that. That's why when we change the air intake, and this is especially the case on 4 cylinders, when you change the air intake, you can change the power curve. You can change where the motor makes power just by changing the length of the tube and the diameter. So all of that is the resonating volume. So I think that that's what we did. I think by taking that off, we changed the Helmholtz resonance and it picked up power up at the top. And obviously, if there was a way for us to attach all that to some sort of air meter, we would see if it's airflow. But given the fact that we made more power, I would assume that we flowed more air also. But this, I think, is a resonating volume thing. And I saw the same thing because I've done this. We like doing this. I've done this a couple of times. One time I did it on a Ford FR500, the magnesium intake, which I still have, which is awesome. And it is a dual runner manifold. We were running it only on the short runner, but it has a bolt-on lid on it. So what we did is the same thing. We have the lid sitting there. We'd go to wide open throttle, and then at wide open throttle, there's nothing holding the lid on anymore because we didn't have any of the bolts on it. So we just removed the lid and then ran at wide open throttle with the lid open. And then what we do is just shut the ignition off and shut the dyno off, and then the motor slows down. Otherwise, it would be at wide open throttle all the time. But when you do that, it basically turns a manifold like that into an IR manifold because it has no common plenum anymore. And that's a big difference in plenum volume. Obviously, it has an infinite plenum volume. So there's a big change in power. And I do the same thing with a carbon TR intake manifold for an LS. That's the one that looks like the new Fast. That's the one that they modeled it after. And it has adjustable runners inside. And it has like radius entry stacks inside in those runners, and it has a removable lid. So what we did, same thing. We go to wide open throttle and then just remove the lid. The cool thing is in the video that I did, if you've looked on Instagram, I'm actually standing in there, and when he goes to wide open throttle, I just pull the thing off. Had I started the motor with the cardboard plate on there, it would have stayed there because there's lots of vacuum there with the thing at idle and with any kind of part throttle. There's a lot of vacuum. So that would have held the cardboard plate in place. It might have had a little bit of a vacuum leak, but not much. And if we went to wide open throttle, that plate, our cardboard plate with no more vacuum on it, probably would have just fallen off by itself. But what I wanted to do is, while I was in there, when he made the run, is when he was coming off of when the dyno was at the end, I put the cover plate back on there, and so the thing would idle back down, and he didn't have to, you know, work the switches and everything to shut the motor off. But that was just because I wanted to do it that time. Normally, we just turn the motor off when we've done it the other times. As a matter of fact, when I did the FR500 intake, we just hooked a wire up and ran it outside the dyno under the door, and we just yanked it to pull it off. We didn't even stand in there on that one. So it was a lot of fun. So those are some of the kind of tests that you can do to change plenum volume. And I've done that on other things too. Like I did the test on the Ford 462 valve truck manifold has that. It has a throttle divider that divides the plenum. So they run it divided and undivided, and they have that actuated by the computer, and it does that at a certain RPM to improve torque production down low. And actually it makes no difference at the top of the RPM range. So their resonating volume where they're doing it was designed specifically, because it's a truck application, to enhance power at lower speeds. So it's awesome stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff to play with. Overbuilt. Richard, I remember my friend bought an air swirler. Is that the Tornado? Because the Tornadoes were all the thing. Yeah, I had a good friend of mine back in the day swear by his Tornado. He had it in his truck, and we used his truck. He was nice enough to let us use his truck for hauling our race car up to a race we had at Buttonwillow, and we just took it off, and it ran much better with the thing off. Because when if it's just air and you're swirling the air and then you're swirling the air before the throttle body and before the runners and before the valve, do you think that the air is still swirling when it goes in there to do anything? It's not. It looks really good when you swirl the stuff going down into the coke bottle that they always show, though. What computer do we use to run the TPI? We have a Holly HP. The next Nova video, Frank, will have to come after I get back home. Mark Wallace says, running open throttle body work better on these tests? I don't know what you mean. We have to run it at wide open throttle to do the test. I know it kills a Honda to run open throttle body. I don't know what you mean. On Honda, if you go to wide open throttle, the throttle body is open. So maybe I'm not understanding what you're saying. Yeah, we could run the throttle body and then connect linkages and stuff. We just wanted to do it. I needed to do it so it was fast so I could get it all done. Yeah, the Tornadoes, they sold a lot of those, just like they sold a lot of split fire spark plugs and what is the other stuff? Prolong, and there's a lot of good stuff. Richard, have you ever tested using Brown's gas? I don't know what that is. I'm not familiar with it. The 3800 is not up next. He's still trying to get that running. I have a trigger wheel that's supposed to have arrived by now. The next thing that's up is a 4.8. Aussie's in the house. Any chance you'd go all in on a 400M? I have a 400M video up already. That one did pretty well. It made 560 or something. I mean, I know that that's not all of it, but that was pretty good, we thought, for a 400M. Especially here in the United States, that's not a popular motor. Not very many people modify them. Yeah, the magnets in the fuel line. The place that I do like magnets are on the fuel filters. That's pretty cool when you put the magnets on the case magnets on the outside of the filter. Because when you take the filter out and we cut them apart, which we do a lot, you can see how. You can see all the metal shavings that are in there. Tom wants to know, what do you think the main cause of Gen 3 Hemi lifter failure is? I don't agree with Tony about the design defect of a Hemi. I've never had a lifter failure with a Hemi, but again, I don't run them the way that people do. I think that the ones that are failing, the ones that they're talking about, are really, really long periods of idle at low oil pressure. And I think that that's probably a problem. What are the best bang for the buck wastegates and blow-off valves? Blow-off valves, there's lots of them out there. We run good wastegates because I don't want to skimp on that for running the kind of boost that we do on stuff. Drive, mod racing, coyotes, secrets, those things already make enough power. You do the same thing that you do with everything else. The Gen 3 stuff is really impressive. The heads are good, but porting heads work, cams work. Most people just run boost on that motor because it's already makes quite a bit of power. NA, they run E85 in it so that you can get all the timing, and those work really good. The Second Amendment, 4.6 double overcam aluminum block, stroke to 5 liter, then boost, or just keep it stock. If you're going to run boost, I wouldn't worry about the displacement change. That's expensive. And if it's a 464 valve, like a Cobra motor, it already has a good steel crank. It already has good parts in it. And the difference between having a stroker version and having in it the 4.6 version might be a couple pounds of boost. That's easy to make up with the turbo. You just go, hey, now it's a stroker and it's got 2 more pounds of boost, and then it's all fine. Drive by wire or drive by cable for a supercharger on an LS. I always run manual throttle bodies. The only time I've ever run drive by wire throttle bodies on the dyno is we had to do it on the 5.3 because it's a factory computer, and then we also did it on. I don't know that I've ever done it on an LS. I don't think I have, because we always run a Holly. We run a mechanical throttle body. So Brown's gas is hydrogen then. The 455 Buick is down at L&R being fixed because it had rust in the cylinder, but it should be done fairly shortly here. Street Fox 347. Look at the Brawler stuff. That works really well. And for a 450 horse 347, I think I would do a 750 or an 850. If you plan on going more than that later on, an 850 is not a bad way to go. The 750 will be better for driving around. Yeah, Mark, if you have a pipe and a radius entry, that will usually improve the airflow into a throttle body. I have radius entries for a lot of the throttle bodies. It's just hard to have them for every size. And when we're not looking for the absolute maximum, the last couple of horsepower or whatever, I run those same radius entries we run on the inlets of superchargers. And I don't think I've ever done it on a turbo because the opening hasn't been sized right. But we've run them a lot on Pro Chargers and on Torque Storms. Have you done anything with fast bleed lifters? No, I don't think I have. We've run lots of short travel stuff. I've never tested Rhodes lifters, any of the new ones. I think we ran Rhodes lifters way back in the day when they were hydraulic flat tappet stuff for small block Chevys. But I haven't done any. If they have newer stuff, I haven't done any of the newer stuff. Does a carb intake respond favorably to a larger plenum? Sometimes, here's the problem with that question. When we put a spacer on, which is normally the way that people increase the plenum volume on a carbureted application, you also change the signal to the carburetor. So you're not just changing one thing, you're changing multiple things. So are you changing it, and is the change in power because of the change in signal to the carburetor, or is it just a change in plenum volume? It would be easier to test that theory if you had the same intake manifold and it was port injected, and you just did the plenum volume change with a spacer and a 4150 throttle body. That's how you'd have to find out, and most people never do that. Admiral's back. Me too. I just had to plug my laptop in. Yeah, the iron LS heads only came on the 6 liters and only the early ones. Sierra wants to know, what is better for NA only, carburetor or fuel injection? They both can do what you want. It's just you have to determine what kind of power you want, and then you pick the intake manifold and camshaft and cylinder head combination to make that power. They will both do that. Lots of people like fuel injection because it's easy to get the right air, fuel, and timing under every possible throttle and load condition, and that's not always possible with the carburetor. The carburetor, if you run it on the same intake manifold, like for instance a single plane manifold, and you run a carburetor on it, it will make more power than port fuel injection will, because it has charge cooling, like I was talking about with how cold the TPI intake was when we ran a carburetor on it. That has an effect on power, and port injection can't get you there. You can with throttle body injection, but then you no longer have port injection to individual cylinders and get them all balanced. Which is hard to do on a lot of different manifolds, because they have different runner lengths and they make power at different RPM ranges, and the signal's different and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, the battery did die on the computer. What do you think of avgas for use with nitrous? We don't run aviation fuel, that 100 octane stuff anymore. And I haven't seen it for a long time, but I don't know if it's still leaded. There's a lot better choices now than that. And you can run nitrous on pump gas. You can run nitrous on E85. You can also run nitrous on any of the other race fuels that are available from 93 or 96 all the way up to 120, and they all work too. Is that a question, Karen? 243 versus 706 head? I'd love to see a dyno of a motorcycle carb per cylinder on a V8. That would be interesting, because 8 is always better. I did do some cool testing with my buddy Tom, who used to work here at West Tech, and now he's out in Texas, and he built a lot of the stuff on the Bonneville cars and stuff that we ran. But he did a really cool test. We were on the chassis dyno, and he had a 600cc Honda motorcycle that he was running out at El Mirage, and I think he was going to run it at Bonneville too, and he ended up setting some records. It was really cool. But we got to stand. We were both standing next to it with the motorcycle in between us. It was strapped on the chassis dyno, and we were making full throttle runs standing next to it on the chassis dyno. And we had a video camera and a strobe light aimed down into the open carburetors, and you could see the fuel. I think they were fuel injected. It might have been an injected bike. but you could see the fuel. You could see the valves opening and closing. You could see the fuel going in and spiraling around the wall. It was really, really awesome. William, what's up? Wants to know what it's like working with Brule. Brule's awesome. He's great. He's the go-to guy if I have any big block questions. He's a carb whisperer. You know, he's great. He does lots of cool stuff here. He's done lots of dyno testing. He does it every day, and he's been doing it for a long time. And he has a big background. He's a hot rod guy, raced boats, all kinds of cool stuff. Do I subscribe to the concept that oversized turbos are a good idea for stock bottom end projects? A late spool keeps cylinder pressure down. You can also do that with proper timing and stuff and proper fuel. But the thing is, the softness though is going to come way before the torque peak unless the thing is way oversized. So you still have a really, really big torque number, and the torque number is probably what's going to break a stock bottom end. At least that's what we saw in ours. When we on the 6 liter, we were about 1,300 foot-pounds or so on the Gen 4 or on the Gen 3 motor, and I think that's what breaks them. I don't think it's a power number. I think if we can get past the torque peak and have a rising curve, the best way to do that, and that's what we're going to do now with our TC1 turbo controller, is we have it RPM referenced. So now we can have hopefully, I haven't done it yet, we're going to try it, have the boost curve follow RPM, so we can make it like a centrifugal blower. Splurge on non-junkyard O-rings. No, I said I needed a specific O-ring. I needed that O-ring for coming out of the fuel pressure regulator for the return on the tune port. I didn't think that the GM would actually have one in stock. And I didn't want to go to an O-ring place where I had to search through all the O-rings to find the one that I wanted. I knew that the wrecking yard had the exact O-ring that I needed. I knew that they had the part because I had been there the day before. And plus, I got to go to the wrecking yard, look around at all kinds of cool stuff, and climb into motorhomes with partially destroyed 440s. Sierra wants to know if I help design superchargers. No, I don't do that. Gauge, I've got a 4.8 with a stage 3 BTR truck cam going in my 97. That's a big cam actually for a 4.8. Yeah, the 4.8 is, Matt, the 4.8 with the supercharger is next on the list. Ogie, I've never tested any Ford flathead stuff, but I might have some coming up. It's actually a 4-cylinder flathead. The same guy that let me use the intake for this carbureted intake. He's got some other stuff too, and he had one when I was there. As a matter of fact, he has a few of them, and he said we might be able to run one, which would be really, really cool because I've never run one of those. Sinister Silverado, come on, say it isn't so. I never trust 30-year-old rings. Those are the best ones. They've already found a home. They already like where they are. The ones that we ran, the Big Bang Gen 3 on the 6 liter, those were 250,000 miles, and it was from a 1999 6 liter. So those are pretty old. Not 30 years though. Braden wants to know when I'm going to do testing on the RB25. We're working on that too, just getting the fuel injection working. Would love to see a cam properly spec for the 4.3, a 106 to a 108. Yeah, that's right. That's right about where it should be. The first one that we ran was 9. So that was close. It was a pretty mild one though. It was like a 194, 204 or something. And I wouldn't put a solid flat tappet in it. Jason, I don't know about that. I don't know about swapping the dish pistons for the flat top pistons. I'm gonna look into that when I go down to L&R and we look into swapping the L99 and the 5.7 liter LT1. I'm also going to be doing some LS stuff down there and finding out different weights and different balance combinations. Matt wants to know, are you running the 4.8 on this Westec visit? Yes, I'm hoping to run it before I leave. A big bang on a Buick Grand National 2.8. That's 3.8 V6. Must be a typo there. But those are hard to come by. Yes, French Onion, a 200,000 mile LS might still have cross hatching. Those last a long time, and the Fords also last a long time too. Justin wants to know, what's your relationship with Westec? I'm the guy that they can't get rid of. I've been coming here for 25 years. I've been here longer than anybody here, except for the owner. I've been here longer than Brule. I've been here longer than all of the guys that work here. And I'm trying to remember what year we started doing this. It was long, long ago. One of the reasons that a carburetor runs rich at wide open throttle is they pull fuel through the accelerator pump squirters. Watch the overhead dyno videos. What are my thoughts on the 7.3 Godzilla motor? That's a really good motor. But I don't have one though, and they're really expensive. Where did I meet Freiberger? You know, honestly, I don't remember. I wrote for those magazines, Carcraft and Hot Rod and stuff. And I may have met him here, or it may have been out at some event, Bonneville or the Silver State or something like that. I honestly can't remember. I'll ask David and find out, see if he probably doesn't remember any either, because it's not like I'm important. Don't ignore Matt Happel. He's a YouTube god. Matt is good people. I like Matt. Matt does cool stuff. Did I marry into the family? No. My wife's not a car guy. We haven't made t-shirts yet. Okay, 2 more minutes. I gotta get going. I've done 2 videos tonight. The LT1 Impala SS supercharged or turbocharged. Both of those work good. What engine would you put in a 1977 Ford F350? It depends on what you want to do with it. Are you wanting to tow with it and stuff? Then put a big one in it. If not, a Turbo 351 is always a good choice. Brian, if you look at the channel, we've got some Torque Storm 5.7 Hemis. Dulcich ran one, and I've run one, and we've even run it with that single plane intake, which is good for high RPM power, but gives up a bunch compared to the Magnum stuff. Personally, I would prefer if I was running a. Oh, that is a Magnum. Oh yeah, so I thought it was a Hemi. A Magnum would work good too with a Torque Storm. That's about a 700 horsepower blower. A hot mess, Richard. What's the current 4-cylinder? It's not a 4-cylinder, but it's just a G, which would be 2-liter class record at Bonneville. And there's about 20 different G class records. There's fuel altered, gas altered. There's lots of different ones. I don't have that record in my Civic anymore. The guys at Honda, after many, many years, finally broke it. But the guy that bought my Civic has set 3 records out there with him and 2 of his sons, and they're all in the 200-mile-an-hour club with it. And that car is still today, I think, is the world's fastest Honda Civic. It went 227. I don't know if anybody's gone faster than that in Civic. Maybe they have. There's guys making really crazy power doing standing mile stuff. So maybe somebody's gone faster than that now. See, I have one of my shirts on here. It's the Speed Seeker one, and it might be the same one I was wearing last night, but don't judge. How about a twin charge Honda B series? Yeah, you could do that. I could have done it back in the day with a Jackson Racing supercharger and then turbocharge that. Firebright, I don't know what would happen if you substitute nitromethane water mix instead of water meth. Yeah, world's fastest Yugo. I remember those. I remember those are being sold. The car that I would really like, the other one that I saw when I was at the wrecking yard, was the Ford Festiva. I remember seeing the Shogun one that the guys brought into the show shop. That it may have even been Leno's car. I can't remember. But it had it was Rick Titus, I think, did those, and it had the 3-liter SHO Taurus motor in the back, and those things were awesome. Flares and everything. It looked like an old Renault R5 Turbo, which is another car that I love. I like all of those Group B cars. Should you go carburetor or fuel injection with a 302? You can't go wrong. Both of those work. If you look up on the channel, there's plenty of fuel injected stuff, plenty of carbureted stuff. It all just matters, can you tune those and make them work? There's lots and lots of power. If you run an RPM air gap with a carburetor on it, it works really well. If you run a long runner, street burner, trick flow intake manifold, it works really well. All of that stuff is good. Ricky wants to know an F2 Pro Charger or twin turbos on a 496. I have videos up on both of those. The Pro Charger we ran was a F1A94, not an F2. But it depends on what you're trying to do. Are you drag racing that thing? The twin turbos could make more power than an F2, but I don't know about the easier to maintain and cheaper. The two turbos will definitely be cheaper than buying the Pro Charger, but I don't know about all the rest of the stuff. Yes, Karen, I do remember Smokey Unix gas mileage Fiero. Smokey had some really, really like out there ideas. They were cool. Yes, a Geo Metro with an LS in it. I would love to do that. Although I really like my Sprint with the little one liter in it. Should I put a few steps colder plug in my 135,000 mile LL6 that is going to get 100 shot of nitrous? I would bring the gap down at least on the plugs that you have. We've run hot plugs on them before, but colder plugs are, that's always a good idea. Admiral, tunnel ram under blower, good or bad idea? Where were you? Weren't you here when I walked over and showed you the tunnel ram on Freiberger's Big Block? It's an excellent idea. It's just really, really tall. It makes more power than having a blower manifold everywhere. From bottom to top, it makes more power than the tiny short runner deals. Thanks, Tim. Buick 455 stuff. Roy wants to know, could you do a simple centrifugal supercharger on a 2005 LU3 V6? I don't have one of those, unfortunately, but yeah, you can easily, if that will bolt on there, if you have a kit that will bolt on there, it's easy to run boost on that, as long as you can tune it. Joey, the new 2-liter domestic motors, the Ecotechs and stuff, are all really good. My wife has a Mercedes that has a 2-liter in it, and it runs 20 pounds of boost. They're awesome. Well, Steven, you just found the channel. Well, welcome aboard. I have never tested an Iron Duke. The only time I've ever run, wasn't that the motor that they used in the, well, that was the 4-cylinder in the Fiero, right? We've run chassis dyno stuff with those, but nothing on the engine dyno. I wish they would have put up an old quad 4. There's a guy that comes into West Tech that has a an Ecotech in his, he had a V6 in there, and he took that out. He may have even also had an LS. He's been through a few motors on that, swapping that into different things, and he road races it, and now he has an Ecotech in it, and the thing runs really good. Roy wants to know, what kind of horsepower would you get by doing nothing to an LU3 at 8 pounds? Isn't that like a 300 horsepower motor? So you'd be 450 or something? The plan for the Nova is to put the 6-cylinder in it first. Daniel, I don't know about the maximum horsepower on the GM 3.4 liter V6. I've never played with an FE3 Mazda engine. CA434, I have not talked to Ray lately. Should I? I don't know. I don't remember what year the Ecotech was. I'll have to ask him. Sierra wants to know how much more power a 302 from a Fox body will make on meth injection. If you just run water meth injection on a stock one, it's probably not going to make any more power. You guys are talking about the Iron Duke, right? Yeah, that's the Pontiac motor. The quick fuel that, or the brawler that we used was a Holly version. I don't think it was a quick fuel version. Yes, I've run some rotary stuff, but only on the chassis dyno. I've never run a Dodge 420A 4-cylinder. Well, Tim, tell us about the overbuilt Iron Duke. I think I still have a book on performance building the Iron Duke. So look through my old books and see. I think I do have one. Mike, I have, like I said, I've done some stuff on the chassis dyno on Mazdas, on the rotaries, the 12As and the 13Bs. I've never done anything on a 3-rotor. Wayne, I've never done anything with a sprint car motor. I can't remember if they've run any here at West Tech or not. I'd have to ask Steve. I don't remember specifically seeing any of those. Those things are pretty serious, though. How about an idea as a solid roller on the street? 600 lift. What kind of engine is it for? I don't like solid rollers only because the lifters on the solid roller stuff tend not to last. And unless you're really drag racing where you want to take advantage of what the solid roller can do for you, like for an LS, I would never put a solid roller in it unless I was maybe doing a pro mod or something. But otherwise, I would never put one in. I don't know that I'd ever have a solid roller in any kind of a street motor either. The possible exception being a big block, only because I think that the hydraulic roller stuff is a little bit more problematic on that engine family. Yeah, Tim, that might be the catalog that I'm thinking, or that might be the book that I'm thinking of. It's a catalog. It's probably the GM Performance Parts catalog from way back that had the Iron Duke stuff in it. A 3TC Toyota. My buddy Bernie was telling me about those. Yeah, the Titan would be a good one. The Nissan. That's what I was talking about earlier. Nick Williams, what laptop do you use for tuning? This one is a real tough book. It's a Panasonic CF31 is what they have here at West Tech. That's not mine. That's actually theirs. Do I tune other people's motors? No, you don't want me tuning it. I'm not good. I'm not a good tuner. The stuff that I do on the engine dyno is really, really easy. It's like wide open throttle stuff. It's very simple. But doing drivability and stuff, I never do any of that. I haven't, even though I've been doing this for a long time. I don't do that, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to tune people's stuff. I know, 10 minutes later. Pro Charge Mopar. Is the Nova getting a 4.3 liter Chevy? No, but I actually kind of want the Nova. I would like the Nova to be 6-cylinder Nova. I would like it to get the 3800 Series 2. I'd like it to get the possibly a 4.3 liter V6, but not the V8. Also the 4.2 liter inline Atlas motor. And then, an RB25 would be good just to make people mad. Yeah, and they would all have to have some kind of boost on them, obviously. Yeah, that would be another possibility. A J35 would be good. Yes, and the 292 Chevy would be good also. But the Atlas would be really cool because a turbo Atlas, the Atlas looks good, and it would look really good, even better with a turbo. Jason, you could actually do burnouts with your Iron Duke Camaro. '56. What the heck time is it? Man, you guys keep me up way too late. Hobbs wants to know what my first car is. Well, that's going to be one of the questions when I ever have a quiz, and everybody should already know that because everybody should have already heard that story. It was a 1970 and a half Rally Sport Camaro. What brand wideband do you recommend? We have Holley stuff. NTK sensors normally are what they use. I've used the fast stuff, the one that I just gave away. Also use the AEM stuff, the Innovate stuff. There's lots of good stuff. I know the RB25 would start a war. Really, even better than the RB25 would be to do a K24, a K24 four-cylinder. It would be even better. Oh, I'm not going to bed right now. I'm going in to the dyno to work until whenever this engine is done. And if you saw, it's a long ways from being done. I still have to build both of the heads. I still have to clearance the pistons on this side and then put it all back together and tune it and run it. And then clean it all up and then take it off and have it be ready for when they need to test tomorrow. My favorite drink depends. When I go out with Lisa, we always have raspberry lemon drops, which, as you know, are the manliest of all the lemon drop family. They laugh at other lemon drops. Or Crown and Coke is really good too. I have tested, John, thank you again. I have tested the benefits of windage trays, and I really am a big fan of windage trays and oiling system mods in general, especially on big buck Chevys. Every big block Chevy that we run, especially a stroker, has windage issues. And sometimes you can cure it with the best pan that I like is the Moroso pan for the big block Chevys. And it has an integrated tray. It's a deep sump. It's a box. It has all good things going for it. But a windage tray is definitely a good idea. The thing that I haven't tested that I would like to see is I always wondered if a diamond scraper, the screen windage tray, was actually better than a flat windage tray or a louvered windage tray. And then also a crank scraper. I did some of this stuff when I was doing my Engine Masters motor. I had a Mylodon pan on mine with a kick out, and I had a tray on it. And I didn't try a crank scraper, which would probably have been a good idea on that because I didn't pay a close attention to the oil drains, which I should have. And so it would have been, it definitely would have been beneficial given the amount of oil that was coming back down on the crank. Yes, Jeff, I did get lost. My laptop shut down. And the weird thing is when I plugged it back in, it all came back on, and I can see you guys talking. I can see the comments. Hey, where'd Richard go? Where'd Richard go? I even typed in, hey, I'm right here. But all I saw up here was, and I could see myself, and I could talk, and I was having a conversation with myself. But you guys couldn't see me, unfortunately, and it just kept telling me that you're reconnecting. But I didn't know why I could see you in the live chat and you guys couldn't see me. So I logged off and came back on and started again. A dry sump is the ultimate thing. It's much, much better. But you can get gains also with a good oil pan and a vacuum pump and a windage tray and, like I said, scrapers and that kind of stuff. Street Fox, the Holly Street H750 works good. Yeah, 74 Dodge Colt. What you really need is the twin stick. CA434, I'm not sure about that yet, but sometime this week. Sherman, a PD blower cam and a turbocharged streetcar is a bad idea. Is it a bad idea? Lots of guys run LS9 cams because they're cheap and people basically giving them away. And even if you had to buy a new one, they're not very expensive. They work and they make good power on the top end, but they're really soft down low. So the spool is going to be worse and the mid-range power is going to be worse with the positive displacement blower cam that has a really, really wide LSA, like 119 or 120, like some of those cams have. So you'd be better off with a different cam, but it will work and lots of guys run them. Bubba has a GMC 401 V6. Sasquatch Girls and Trampoline. I'm not familiar with that channel. Jeremy wants to pick a race car platform. We could put all these motors in and go test in the quarter mile. Somebody I was talking to was doing one of those GM V6s. They were doing their own intake manifold, and they were doing some cool stuff to it. So if you're out there, hit me back up, because the problem is I get so many emails and all that stuff. The stuff just disappears, and then I can't ever go find it again. The plus 4 is just advanced in that, but 118 is pretty wide. Yes, I have seen the PFI Speeds Honda J. That is cool stuff. They do really good stuff out there. Yeah, I like the big V6s. I've never run one of those GMs. How often are they running on the chassis dyno? They run every day here at West Tech on the chassis dyno. Yeah, I'm excited about the 3800 Series 2 V6 Big Bang. Let's see. Tyler, I must have said something wrong. Where's that comment coming from, Tyler? Did I miss something up top? Okay, 20 seconds left at 104 on my feed. I got to go work, get stuff done. You know, I can't be just goofing off with you guys the whole time. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm out. I got to go work. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. I will see you. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow night.